Hi everyone. Thank you for coming back and joining me. I am really glad you're here. And before I get started, just a reminder that if you haven't subscribed yet, I hope that you will. Or if there's anything about this episode that touches you, then I hope you'll just give a thumbs up, a like. It just helps people find me on YouTube better and elsewhere, I guess. So thanks again for being here. I want to share with you some things that have happened that, I get asked a lot, how did you get through it? How did you get through it? And I want to share some of that because there were some horrible parts. In fact, there are such difficult times that I've gone through in the past year and a half that are so difficult that my memory is blocked, some of it. I'm told that the pain that comes with porphyria is so severe that it's often worse than childbearing or worse than having kidney stones. I know it's hard to imagine. I think some of the pain was so horrible, I've just blocked some of it from my memory. But yet I do remember it being so bad that it went on for weeks at a time, and actually for a couple of months that just seemed to be nonstop. It seemed to be unending pain that was really severe. And so I remember calling out to God constantly during that time. And all I could say, I'm sure to the annoyance of everyone around me, especially the staff at the hospitals, I repeatedly said, please God, please God. Or I would say, God help. And I just would repeatedly say that because there was nothing else that anyone was doing that was really helpful. I mean, they were trying. They didn't know what I had. The overall question was, why is this woman becoming paralyzed from the neck down? Nobody knew why. And after weeks, actually months of research, finally, they were able to discover that I had porphyria. And that porphyria diagnosis became more specific as to acute hepatic porphyria. And the more specified diagnosis was variegate porphyria. I never heard of it. I never heard of porphyria of any kind. And I'm told that many doctors, if they've heard of it, it may have been back in med school. They may have heard that there was such a thing. But most doctors are not really used to treating anyone with this or have done any studies on it because it's so rare. I didn't know that I had porphyria. I didn't know that it ran in our family. This is a genetic disorder that I would have had to have gotten from one of my parents. And it turns out that it's on my mother's side that was, if anybody suffered from it, they didn't realize what it was. They didn't realize that they had such a diagnosis or even what to do about it. So, it's interesting because usually people are diagnosed with porphyria at puberty or maybe at childbearing years. Certainly, maybe by their 30s. But to wait until you're in your early 60s to have it, 60-year-old people usually would have known long before now that they have porphyria. Now these things are making sense. And that's why for years and years and years, I had these neurological issues that now I know was a porphyria thing. So being able to diagnose it meant answering the hardest parts of what I was going through. My porphyria became really intense. The symptoms became more and more intense when I was in the hospital. And it just was something that we didn't know what to do about it. And thankfully, we were able to get a hematologist on board who is and continues to still treat me. And she's brilliant. And she has been a lifesaver. And my PCP, my primary care physician, and the nurse practitioner, my nurse practitioner has been a godsend. She's taken everything very seriously and has been on top of it, and that's been great. When I was in the hospital, out of state, things had to be turned over to mostly my hematologist. When you have porphyria, you have a hematologist that is sort of the overall umbrella, and she oversees everything else. And that's really important, because if I'm given the wrong antibiotic or the wrong medication, that can trigger a porphyria attack. And that's what was happening with me. So once we were able to get the medication that I needed, the heme that I needed added to my other meds, it was the heme that was helping overall. And it started to help in the beginning, took the edge off, but I still was having an attack that was really, it was incredible. It was awful pain. And so the hematologist decided to use something that's incredibly powerful, and it's called Givlari. And that's a whole nother story of how I even got to get the Givlari medication. My daughter put up on Facebook, and let me just stop there. Our family doesn't really disclose everything on Facebook. Our family is not one to share personal information on Facebook. Typically, we don't. And but so many people were asking about me and where did I go and what's going on, and they just knew that something happened and I was ill, but they didn't know really what was going on. And so my daughter, in order to update people, shared what was going on a little bit and was just really honest and saying, we don't know what's going on. We just found out she has this condition called porphyria. So if anybody knows anything about it, please share. Well, nobody knew anything about it because even the doctors didn't really know, except the hematologist. Once they got that diagnosis, she knew. And the other doctors who were really up on the condition, they were able to help. And so once my daughter posted on Facebook about having porphyria, it's very interesting, this amazing story. I love this story where my husband Rob's, one of his closest friends, and his wife saw my story on Facebook. And my husband's phone rang, and it was our friend who said to Rob, you know what I do, right? You know that I work for this company that that makes medication for very rare diseases. And one of them is porphyria. I mean, what are the odds? Really, what are the odds? We were amazed by that. And frankly, I consider that a God thing. Our family considers that a God thing. Because once that conversation was had, on Thursday, we were told about Givlari. And on Tuesday, we had the medication administered to me in the hospital. That changed everything. that took the attack that I was under and put it to rest. And it's a monthly medication that I take that, for me, it worked. For me, it was a godsend. We would have known nothing about this unless our friend had reached out to us. In the meantime, we were in the process of speaking with our hematologist, our doctor, and everything started coming together. She ordered the Givlari. We were able, and that was the next thing to try. Thank God we did, because it worked for me. It was something that worked, and it was a vital part, and it continues to be a vital part of my treatment. Doesn't work for everybody, I'm sure, but for me, it was a godsend. So we were able to get that medication, and this is a very pricey thing. I mean, there were so many things that came into play that allowed me to get this injection every month. It's what are the chances, what are the odds that we learn about it? What are the odds that we could be in a place where our insurance would cover it? Because a lot of times it doesn't. But we didn't wait for the insurance. We were able to get that medication to me. We were able to get that medication to me and to make it affordable, to be able to have the insurance cover it. I'm grateful for that. To say I'm grateful for that is an understatement. To this day, and I've been taking this injection this morning I just had an injection, and it was, I think this is our 15th month. So I'm grateful that I'm able to have that. And I'll tell you, when you have it flare up, it is called an attack, and it's pretty severe. I don't remember a lot of it because the pain was so intense, and it went on for months, and I became paralyzed. So that in itself was horrendous. But once the Givlari came into play, man, I mean, what an answer to prayer. So I was really grateful. And I still, to this day, I look back on that and learning about our friend who works for the company that makes the medicine that I needed and that I continue to need. Thank you, God. So it's one of the things that this just came out of the blue. So since I was diagnosed with Porphyria, members of my family were diagnosed or not diagnosed. And so where we started was with my kids, mine and Rob's kids, and with Mick and Amy. And so they can tell their story if they choose to do so. But then my mother got tested to see, my father isn't with us anymore. He passed a few years ago. So we don't know if he was a carrier at all. Chances are probably rare. Although I kind of question that. I kind of wonder if he was a carrier. But my mother was tested, and it turns out that she was a carrier. It didn't flare out like it did with me. It really takes something to trigger Porphyria to come forward and to rear its ugly head. So for me, learning that my mother was a carrier, that just, that's important to know, because then her siblings can be tested and see where it ends, with that side of the family, to see if there are cousins who tested positively. And so hopefully nobody else has it, but we're in the discovery phase of that. So we are definitely in the process of seeing where it started, as far as we could tell, and where it's going to end. Now, if my son gets tested, and he plans on doing that soon, if he gets tested and it's negative for porphyria and he doesn't have it, that'll be a blessing, because it stops them with him, and his kids won't have to be tested. It will just be, it will end with him. But if Amy has it, then her kids will eventually need to be tested to see if they have porphyria. So we're in that whole process, the learning process of where it ends in our bloodline. Will it stop with me, or will it go on to our kids? And so we'll learn more about that in the coming weeks and months. So that's where we're at. I can exhale knowing that things are going forward in the way that, with whatever we can do about this porphyria diagnosis. Who has it, and what do we do about it? Right now, I'm really grateful that I have treatment for it. It's a horrible disease, but it's one that can be treated. And so if we can keep it at bay, then hopefully I won't have another attack ever. That's my hope. So we'll see what happens. We're still in the process of finding out where this all leads. So for now, things are going well. I continue in physical therapy and occupational therapy. Occupational therapy because I don't have much function of my hands. I still need help getting dressed, and in many different areas I need help. So one of the frustrating things for me is not having use of my hands. I'm not able to type very well. I can kind of henpeck, but even that's really a pain, to be honest. And just being able to use my hands at all, they're so numb, and it's affected me neurologically. I think that to be able to share some of the things that have happened and some of the hindrances of not being able to use my hands, not being able to sign my name. I'm working on that so that I can sign my name and to use my hands more. So I'm practicing signing my name with a pen. It's hard to even hold a pen, But at this point, we're working on it. We're looking to see if I'll be able to get better use of my hands. That's why I'm in occupational therapy. Physical therapy, my balance is really off, and physical therapy, it's been a long, hard road, but there are some gains, and there are some things that I'm still working on. Right now, I'm still using a walker. Getting braces on my legs has been a real hassle. I should have had new braces, a second pair of braces that I need. I should have had those months ago, and that's been a real trial. So we're trying to get that fixed and to get new braces that are going to be able to help me. And yeah, I guess I'll tell that story in the future, in the near future, to see what happens with that. And I'm hopeful that that I can move forward in a positive way. I'm very determined, and I'm always hopeful. I'm a firm believer that there is always hope. So yeah, I thank you for being here and listening to this part of my story, and I'll continue with the next part in the next episode. So thanks for listening. I appreciate you being here. I hope you'll tune in and hit that subscribe button so you'll know when the next story, when the next episode comes. In the meantime, make it a great day for you and someone else.